No, 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 don't.
Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today is a complete guide to Bucky Discard. I did a video similar to this a couple of weeks back when we looked at Amber Ruby Mufasa, and I've done this video very much in that same style. The first half of the video is going to be more aimed towards beginner to intermediate players with a complete breakdown of the deck, but even if you're an advanced player it may be of interest to you. And then I've got 5 games to show you right at the end, again sped up and with cuts, so it should be hopefully a good pace. Before we get on with it, I do just want to make a point of saying I uploaded my first video yesterday after only an 8-day break, which doesn't sound a lot, but to me it felt like the end of the world. And yeah, I opened up about a couple of things that have been going on with me in my personal life recently, and I just want to say the comments on the video were overwhelmingly positive and really got me quite emotional, to be honest. It really meant a lot to me, the kindness and the support that everyone's shown. So I just want to say such a huge thank you. But yeah, we are back in all systems go mode. So without any further ado, let's get on with it. I first started playtesting Bucky a couple of weeks ago when covering an Emerald Ruby deck, where the emphasis was supposed to be on Pete and actions, but amongst my building and testing, I found versions which included Bucky to be far stronger and a lot more fun overall. I knew then that I wanted to come back to Bucky and experiment with him using different ink combinations. My first thought was that Amber would be a great combo, utilising things like the Queen and Rockstar Stitch, as well as Amber's options for extra draw and reducing character costs. However, before I could get the chance, fellow content creator Zephyr published this video where he featured this deck, which took a player called Zero Skater very high on the Pixelborn ladder. This version instead chooses to pair Emerald with Steel to take advantage of some stronger Floodborn options which have a lot of use in our current meta, as well as taking advantage of Steel's access to chip damage cards to help remove threats and control the board while consistently denying our opponent as many resources as we can. From my initial testing, this deck does seem very strong and is likely to gain popularity as we move into more tournaments post 2024. That being the case, I think it's an important one to take a look at. Even if you have no intention of running this yourself, it's important to know how decks work so that you have a better insight in how to oppose them. As well as the pre-mentioned video by Zephyr, I also found this topic covered by a couple of other fellow content creators, such as Bannable Harker and Phonetic, who feature slightly edited versions of the deck, but they're still very insightful, so you should go and check out those videos too. But these are my own thoughts on Bucky Discard. Bucky is a 2-cost inkable who quests for 1 with a 1/1 stat line and 2 abilities. Firstly, Ward, the thing that makes Bucky viable at all, meaning he's fully protected against common chip damage cards like Teeth and Ambitions and Let the Storm Rage On. Next, the Squeak ability, which says, whenever you play a Floodborn character, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Just to confirm, this terminology means that they do discard a card from their own hand. They can't choose to discard a card in play or from your hand. If that was the case, it would specifically say that you could do that. Emerald already has access to a couple of cheap Floodborn characters. Firstly, Donald Duck, who also acts as a means to draw extra cards. And Flynn Rider, who not only do we have a shift target for, but can apply huge lore pressure once we've depleted our opponent's hand. These are fairly pivotal includes as they allow for a turn 4 Floodborn drop, which is really quite crucial to our early game curve to avoid losing tempo. We'll go more into that in detail soon. Next from our Steel ink pool, firstly to also fill that need for 4-cost Floodborn characters, we have Jafar Dreadnought, who has a 3/4 stat line and the ability, Now Where Were We?, which allows us to draw a card whenever Jafar banishes an opposing character in a challenge. Drawing cards is obviously always good, and his 3/4 stat line is pretty good. 3 is an important number to be able to hit, dealing with a lot of common meta cards such as Simba, Ariel, Doc, other common 1-drops, as well as most of Amethyst's bounce package, meaning that we'll have viable targets on a regular basis for our Dreadnought to help us deal with and gain resources at the same time, making him a threat which opponents will likely respect, and may slow them down as they'll be less keen to leave their characters exerted for Jafar to easily gain tempo from. Jafar also survives the challenge from most of these common threats, meaning he will usually stick around to serve an extra purpose. A common meta exception is Madam Mim Fox, but at least we take her out in return, and by the time she has challenged us, hopefully that's because we challenged and banished something on the previous turn on top of drawing a card. Looking further at our Steel Floodborn options, we also have Beast Tragic Hero, who is basically a staple in every Steel deck anyway, due to his incredibly strong ability allowing us to draw 2 cards per turn, as long as he hasn't been damaged. And if he is damaged, the 7 strength he adopts as a result is enough to deal with most cards in the meta. Lastly, the OG Floodborn Steel champion, Tinkerbell, who is as powerful as ever due to the chip damage she brings through being played and banishing characters. But also gives us another option for a turn 4 Floodborn drop, if we were able to get one of the copies of Tiny Tactician that we're playing down on turn 3. This package of Floodborn characters is usually enough to guarantee access to a turn 4 Floodborn drop, to pair with our Bucky and start stripping cards from our opponent's hand, meaning that we're not only denying our opponent resources and limiting their ink options, but we are continuing to apply pressure to the board. That's what makes Bucky so powerful as a discard engine. The discard comes off of playing big characters, which is something we ultimately want to be doing anyway. To assist our discard package, we're of course playing the greediest of them all, Prince John, who allows us to draw cards for every one that we make our opponent discard, and his ward ability means he has a far easier time just sitting on the board, gaining you card advantage as you continue to destruct your opponent's hand. We're also playing Hypnotize, which forces a discard while letting us draw a new card, which becomes 2 cards if Prince John is in play. And the same is true of our song Sudden Chill, which doesn't replace itself like Hypnotize does, but again, can do with John in play, and being a song often means we can push our turn that bit further on limited ink, and force an additional discard from our opponents by having one of our characters sing it. Next are supporting cards. Firstly, we have Smash, which is an important removal piece to have. We don't always have an easy time getting to 3 characters on board, so Strength of a Raging Fire is less consistently going to eliminate threats like Arthur and Ariel. But we do still have a 3 count of Strength of a Raging Fire as we can get to that 3 mark, and sometimes just 1 or 2 damage can be enough to get you value. Plus, it's inkable. Grab Your Swords is here at a 2 count, which is usually enough to see them at the right times to assist your board clears. And we have Fire the Cannons, which can be a saving grace on your turn 1 going second, being able to immediately answer some common opposing 1-drops. In fact, it's because we aren't playing any 1-drop characters ourselves which can make this a pivotal piece of the deck, as our Perfect Curve on turns 2 and 3 is pretty passive, so opposing aggro can really run away with the game quickly if we can't answer them. Our only other 1-drop is Improvise, which boosts a character's strength by 1 and lets you draw a card. The math fixing can be relevant at times, taking some of our characters that only have 2 strength into that 3 number that we talked about being very important. The main reason for this inclusion, however, is simply the card draw. We really need to see a couple of our key combo pieces by turn 2 to best utilise the pressure this deck can put on, and going second against a player who put down a character means we can play Improvise to just draw another card and hopefully help us find Bucky or Prince John that we may need for an optimal curve. If you go first and find it in your hand after the mulligan, it's usually just ink. Let's talk a bit more about our ideal curve. Obviously, Bucky is always our preferred turn 2 drop, meaning we can follow up on turn 3 with a Prince John or a Tiny Tactician Tinkerbell ready for a shift into Big Tink on turn 4, or even another Bucky, setting up the opponent to have to discard 2 cards when you play a Floodborn on your turn 4. If you miss Bucky turn 2, Flynn Rider can make a good alternative to not only offer some quest and discard pressure, but opening up the option to find and play Bucky turn 3, and then turn 4 shift into your Floodborn Flynn Rider to trigger Bucky's ability, but still leaving 2 ink left to play with to improvise or fire the cannons or pay for Sudden Chill, before questing with Floodborn Flynn straight away. Honestly, Bucky followed by Bucky or Prince John into any of our Floodborn characters is a strong play, but if you have options, I generally prioritise getting down Jafar on turn 4, as he then gives us the potential to draw us more cards while removing threats, or at least slowing our opponent down if they choose not to quest, so as not to give up too much tempo. If you did play Tiny Tactician on turn 3, then Big Tink turn 4 will most often be the right play, unless you have access to a different turn 4 Floodborn drop to make sure we continue to apply Bucky pressure and want to hold off on your Big Tink until they've extended a little more. As mentioned before, we have Flynn Rider as another Floodborn we can play on turn 4, even without shifting, if we don't have any other Floodborn characters or need to hold them for potential ink. Flynn is definitely one of my most underestimated cards when I first looked at the Rise of the Floodborn card pool. I didn't think he would be online enough, but in this deck, he is a lot, and can regularly be your sole catch-up character once we've depleted our opponent's hand and can get full value from his lore. Lastly, for a turn 4 Floodborn drop, we have Donald Duck, who won't always be your preference. We don't always want our opponent drawing cards as well, but once we've depleted their hand, sometimes it's fine to put him down, have them draw 1 card when you start your turn, and then immediately discard it with one of the tools at our disposal. Plus, in more dire situations where our first few turns didn't go the way we wanted, we may have to rely on his draw just to get us more resources, but the deck is built in a way to maximise consistency, so this shouldn't be a situation you find yourself in all too often. Mostly, he will either be your only Floodborn to play turn 4, which is perfectly fine, it's most important that we get our combo off, but if we have access to another, we may just ink Donald. Beyond turn 4, we have Tragic Hero Beast as our ideal 5-drop, not only triggering Bucky, but giving us one of the best card draw engines currently in the game. Then of course from turn 6 we have access to Giant Tink even without shifting. Depending on the board state, you may choose to use your turn 5 and or 6 differently, utilising our removal cards like Smash and Grab Your Swords to make sure we control the board. But if it's safe to do so, we should prioritise being able to make our opponent discard their resources to a point where they are relying entirely on the top of their deck to get them back in the game. And even then, they may still need to spend a couple of turns immediately inking just to get themselves up to a number which will give them access to their more mass removal cards. Benja is also here as another inkable option to help us remove prominent items in the meta, such as Sleepy's Flute, Lantern and Sorcerer's Spellbook. Now, if we do miss Bucky turn 2 and 3, that can hurt. But if we were at least able to get out Prince John, then we have cards like Hypnotize and Sudden Chill to get our opponent discarding and us drawing. And Tiny Tink into Big Tink is still a powerful play, even without the additional discard resources. We have chip removal options to try and control the board and stall until we can draw into more of our key pieces, and turn 5 Beast can help us get there too. Obviously, the longer you go without reducing your opponent's resources, the harder it becomes to achieve that end goal, or at least gives them time to ink up to a respectable number, so that even if you do get them to topping, more of their deck should be online. But if we play well, we can still get there. Opposing steel decks playing A Whole New World are also bothersome, as we can often discard them down to 1, just to watch them immediately spin the wheel to refuel. In this match, it's really important to hold on to Smash so that we can at least immediately remove their turn 3 aerial and stop them spinning the wheel for free and still have ink left to make further plays. In some situations, depending on how they played out their first few turns, you may be able to achieve a forced 3-card discard in your turn 4 by playing Bucky turn 2, Bucky turn 3, a Floodborn turn 4 followed by a Sudden Chill. In some instances, this may be enough to completely wipe their hand, leaving them topping at 4 ink going into their turn 5, which can completely shut them down, or at least give us a couple of tempo turns before they're able to find another Whole New World. Be Prepared, as ever, is a threat to us, as our curve has us wanting to play 3 characters by turn 4, and then turns 5 and 6 are usually preferably followed by another Floodborn such as Beast on turn 5, and maybe even Tink on turn 6. Against Ruby, always be wary of pushing this much, but if you're able to completely remove their hand, it can be okay to play into the Be Prepared, as long as you're also able to get some draw courtesy of Prince John or Tragic Beast. Hopefully resulting in them playing Be Prepared on their turn 7 with nothing left in hand and passing into you with a 3 or 4 card hand to re-establish a board. But still, if you know you're facing Ruby, don't feel the need to extend on turns 5 or 6 unless the board state really demands it. You can always utilise your cards like Hypnotize and Sudden Chill on those turns to keep them discarding, or our chip damage cards to stop us needing to extend. Against mostly anything else, however, it's pretty free reign to extend, especially if we're triggering Bucky's discard. Obviously, when facing steel, be aware of what opposing Grab Your Swords plays can accomplish, especially in multiples, but hopefully they have no hand, and if they ever do hold a card, we're immediately getting rid of that too. Sometimes they will top like Yugimoto and break out of their predicament, but more often than not, once you get players into that position, they're just as likely to concede, especially in a tournament play where they want to be able to win 2 games out of 3. And that's one of the major things to know about this deck. It is incredibly frustrating to play against. It's not exactly a hot take that it sucks to be losing, but having no cards and physically not being allowed to play the game is just soul destroying. On the other side, playing it can take away a lot of the stress that comes with games. In typical games, you'll be spending a lot of time considering the opponent's options, what they could be holding, what they could be planning for the following turn. There's a lot of considerations that go into making your own optimal plays. Well, why not remove 95% of that anxiety by just taking their cards away and removing all doubt as to whether they're holding that card you really don't want them to have? Yes, they can still top it, but that's always the case. You still completely eliminate one possibility, that they're already holding it. Furthermore, passing into a topping Ruby player with only 5 or 6 ink, knowing that they don't have access to Be Prepared yet, even if they draw it, is my happy place. Honestly, there's not a lot more to say about our grand strategy here. Take their cards away, hope it sticks, while maintaining our own border threats, draw cards, and utilise actions to maintain that control. And quest to 20 before our opponent gets a chance to do anything about it. Let's finish off by talking about the mulligan before we look at a few games. Above all, we want a Bucky for turn 4, and then either a Prince John or Tiny Tink or a second Bucky for turn 3, followed by a Floodborn on turn 4. We must mulligan aggressively for these 3 pieces. If you already have all of them, it's usually fine to just keep anything inkable, but if not, I will throw most things back to get a second shot of finding the combo pieces we need. If we have both Tink in our opening hands, then I would hold both, but I wouldn't keep the big one without having access to the small one. If I have the small one, but not the Floodborn, I would only keep it if I also didn't have a Prince John or a second Bucky for turn 3. Otherwise, I would throw that too. If we know what our opponent is playing, this will obviously adapt how we mulligan. Against Steel Amber Songs or aggro, we want to hold fire the cannons, especially if we're going second. If you're going first and you have Bucky and either Prince John or Tiny Tink in your hand, you may throw cannons away and just be content with the rest of your curve. But if we have enough other inkables, we may still keep it, as Bucky and Prince John aren't really supposed to be challenging, and we may be forced to give up our ideal curve in favour of blasting something like Pinocchio off the table. Smash is also an important card to hold if we know we're facing Amber, as removing Aerial instantly is vital to our tempo. Against anything playing Lantern, I would likely hold the Benger, but if it's Flute or Spellbooks I'm expecting, I'd be content to throw him away and hope to draw back into him more mid-game when such items are more likely to be put down and start gaining value. Of course, if you've already got your perfect curve combo pieces, it's also just fine to hold him. That's pretty much it, I think. There are other ways to play this deck. You may want to lean into things like Lucifer or even Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. But as much as that variant can pop off, and yes, I do think it's a good deck, but the additional uninkables are going to make you less consistent overall, especially with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, which at times will just be a completely dead card. Now let's jump into some games. Okay, so I've got 5 games for you. Again, I'll try not to pause and break things down too much. I'm trying to find the right balance. So we're going first in this game. We immediately throw away... take a minute to decide it. I actually decided to keep this entire hand because I've got Tiny Tink and Big Tink. I've got my turn 2 Bucky. I've got a turn 4 Floodborn drop. I've even got the Beast in hand for a turn 5 Floodborn drop. And Flynn Rider is here as potential ink. Sudden Chill could be potential ink. So I do decide just to hold this entire hand because I'm pretty happy with it. We throw away the Flynn Rider and we pass. Obviously going first is good for us because we don't have any 1-drops. They ink a Benger, so they're playing Steel. They throw down Simba, letting them draw a card and then discarding a card. They pass over to us. I didn't take a look. I normally do. We draw into a Hypnotize. I ink the Sudden Chill and throw down the Bucky. Always our preferred turn 2 play. We pass over. They ink a Donald Duck. So that it's a kind of a mirror match. They throw down Flynn Rider and quest with their Simba. We draw into another Bucky. We ink our Donald Duck because I know I'm throwing down Tiny Tink this turn, and then I've got my turn 4 shift. If I didn't have the Tinkerbell to play turn 4, I wouldn't have done that. We pass over. They ink a Tragic Hero Beast and throw down their own Tinkerbell, so definitely a mirror, but with some different counts. We draw into Jafar. We immediately ink him. We do like Jafar, but we want to throw down this Tink. I would like to be able to get down a second Bucky. I've got the Beast for my next turn, and to be honest, I could have inked the Hypnotize there. I think that probably also would have been reasonable. But we throw down the Tinkerbell, force them to discard a card through Bucky. It's a Grab Your Swords. Pass over to them. They ink a Giant Fairy Tinkerbell and throw down a Giant Fairy Tinkerbell, shifting the Tiny Tactician on the board. They do their 1 damage, which obviously immediately deals with Bucky, and then they throw down Sudden Chill. We decide to throw Bucky. I can't, like... Yeah, I want this... Oh, yeah, because this Beast is my path to drawing cards, and they've only got 1 card left in their hand, so... there's a possibility that I will just play Hypnotize next turn. We draw into Grab Your Swords, and I do opt to just play the Hypnotize. It would have been fine to play the Beast. I'd have had to have inked the Hypnotize, and then getting the Beast down sounds good, but taking the last card out of their hand is always good, because we don't know if they're playing a whole new world as well. So next turn, if they are, then in next turn, if they draw ink, they've got it online. Although it's online already, because they've got Giant Fairy Tinkerbell there. So they probably would have played Whole New World last turn if No, because they only played the no, they could have played it last turn. Sorry, I'm going mad. I'm getting back into the habit of things. But yeah, we throw away their last card with Hypnotize. We draw Strength of a Raging Fire off of the draw that we get from Hypnotize. We challenge into their Simba with Tinkerbell, and we decide to take out the Flynn Rider here because I'm just like, okay, well, there's no point in me going into your Tink because we'll both be taken out. I'd rather make you be the one to go into me. We ink Strength of a Raging Fire to get us up to 5 because I do want to be able to play that Beast next turn, and we pass. They draw into the Floodborn Flynn Rider, throw him down straight away, and they do trade with our Tinkerbell, which is fine with me. They've only got Flynn on the board. We're drawing. We know we're about to throw down this Tragic Hero Beast, who should survive. There's not a lot in. There's nothing I can think of in green or silver, emerald or steel, which would immediately deal with our Beast. I can think of off the top of my head. They throw down a Prince John, which is not a bad top deck for them, and they quest for 2 with Flynn Rider. We, of course, draw 2 cards off of our Tragic Hero. I do decide to ink the Benger. I don't see it coming massively in hand this game. And we pay for Grab Your Swords, which gets King John off the field. And then I'm able to just play Fire the Cannons to just remove this Flynn as well. And now we're just in a fantastic position. They are topping. They top into a sudden chill, but that's fine. We've got the Beast down, so we're drawing 2 cards per turn. I think I quest here. I think I consider playing the Hypnotize just to draw another card, but I opt to keep it just in case that they draw and pass. They throw down a Tiny Tactician, which is another good top for them. We draw Sudden Chill and Flynn. We throw down the Flynn to start applying some more pressure, ink the Sudden Chill, and we just pass. And I'm not questing with Beast here and giving up my draw 2 a turn, especially if they top the Giant Tink. They end up topping the Dreadnought Jafar, and they quest up with Tiny Tink, pass over to us. We draw Big Tink and Improvise. We've got 7 ink, so we just throw down this Giant Tink straight away. We quest up with Flynn Rider, and yeah, I do play the Improvise just to get full use of our ink on the Beast, just to draw another card. I could have also inked it, but 7 ink is fine to be at. They draw Hook and immediately ink him. I'm aware that by questing with... Yeah, that was it. I knew that by questing with Flynn, I was opening myself up to this play, but I know I've got Hypnotize in my hand, so... Again, they could immediately play this card that they draw, so it isn't the most foolproof plan, and they do play the card that they draw, but that was my thought trail at the time, but it probably was a mistake. I don't know, mate. No, to be honest, I don't think it was a mistake because, alright, fine, draw your card with Dreadnought, but I need to deal with this Dreadnought, and at least then you exert, and I can take you out with Giant Tink. So no, I do think it was the right play. They draw Donald Duck off of their Jafar and immediately throw him down. 4, like, good tops in a row from them for top decking, really. We draw 2 cards, again, with Tragic Hero Beast, and we pay for Grab Your Swords. We take out the Dreadnought, putting Chip on Tinkerbell and Donald. We now take out Tinkerbell with our Giant Tink, put the 2 spread damage on the Donald Duck. And at this point, yeah, I throw down the Flynn to continue to pressure a bit more. And I do quest here because in my head, I'm like, okay, I've got a 3 card hand now. If you want to challenge into my Beast, you also take out your own Donald Duck, and then that's preventing some extra draw that you're getting. I was happy to take the risk of losing the Beast, or at least losing my draw 2 a turn, because I've got a hand, and if they want to challenge into me, they'll have to take themselves out. We both draw an extra card off of Donald Duck. They get a smash. They take out our Giant Fairy Tink. We draw Sudden Chill off of the Perfect Gentleman. They do opt to challenge into our Beast just to put damage on him, but at that point, they just concede. Well, they've got 1 card in their hand. We've still got 3 cards in hand and a couple on board, so yeah, the writing was pretty much on the wall. So a dub straight away against the mirror match. Next up, in our next game, we are again going first. Lucky us. We get rid of the Grab Your Sword. Hold on. Yeah, so Grab Your Swords is always going because we want to find more of our combo pieces. I want to hold fire the cannons. Improvise, we're going first, so it matters less. I've got the Prince John. I'm just really aggressively mulliganing for Bucky here. Like, there are arguments to maybe keeping the Flynn as my turn 2 drop. I wouldn't have kept the Tiny Tactician because I'm positive I'm playing greediest of them all on turn 3. So I know I need to find Bucky and I need to find a turn 4 Floodborn drop, which again, if I'd kept the Flynn Rider, that opened up being able to shift into the Floodborn Flynn if I draw into him by turn 4, but I can still just play him on turn 4 even without shifting. So I decide to mulligan very aggressively here to try and find the pieces that I want. Unfortunately, we do not find those pieces, so we ink this Improvise straight away and pass over to our opponent. They ink a Pascal, so we're up against Amethyst. And they throw down Olaf, so immediately I'm assuming Ruby Amethyst control. We draw Benger, we immediately throw him. I could have kept him against Amethyst, but I value these other inkable cards in my hand more. Beast is like a part. I haven't got the best hand. I'm probably wanting to build to Beast. I may need, like, if they're quite aggressive with their hand, I might want this sudden chill to like just get myself more back in the game and to combo with Prince John. So yeah, it's just the best option that I've got. I throw down Flynn Rider, pass over. They immediately quest with Olaf. They ink the Madam Mim Fox. And down comes Madam Mim Snake, returning the Olaf back to their hand. They pass over to us. We draw Grab Your Swords. We ink the Beast. Throw down Prince John. Quest up with Flynn Rider. Pretty sure they're not going to be challenging into me and discarding a card and then letting me draw off of Prince John. They ink up and they throw down Stylish Surfer Mini. They do opt to sing Teeth and Ambition, so they get around our Flynn Rider without having to discard a card, which is fair enough. They pass into us. We draw another Prince John. I do opt to just play this down so that I can just sudden chill, sing this immediately. Again, I know this is making my Prince John exposed to be challenged into next turn, but the only thing that can take him, Mini can't take out Prince John, but Snake can, but Snake will be taken out in return. Yes, they could Madam Mim Fox to get around that, but I've got another Prince John here anyway, and I really want to take advantage of this opportunity to play Sudden Chill and draw 2 cards, because they just don't have the best hand. So we do so, they discard, and we get to draw twice. We ink a Benger. We do play that Fire the Cannons, get the Snake off the field, take that possibility away from them. They ink a Minnie Mouse. I probably could have kept the Fire the Cannons, to be honest, because they can always just quest with Minnie and then return that to their hand to play down Fox. I think I just wanted to increase my odds that I would keep both the Prince Johns, because now they need to have Fox to be able, or Queen of Hearts Rush, to be able to deal with my exerted Prince John. So I'm pretty sure that was my Thought Trail. They draw, well, they play down a Merlin Rabbit, and they quest up with Stylish Surfer Mini. We draw into a Tragic Hero Beast. We ink the Tink, which is our only option. We need to get down this Beast, and our other 2 cards in our hand are obviously uninkable, and we just pass up. I don't want to leave these Prince Johns vulnerable. They throw down another Rabbit, doing amethyst things, drawing all the cards. They ink Olaf. They quest up with Mini. I put this arrow here as a reminder for something. So notice they quest here with this Rabbit. I'll say why that's relevant in a minute. They quest with that Rabbit, and then they throw down Mini and pass over to us. We draw 2 cards off of Beast. I ink this Improvise. Throw down the Flynn Rider. I know I'm playing into a potential Be Prepared here, but I've got nothing going on. I need to apply pressure, and I think at this point I was just taking the Thought Trail of, okay, I just need you to not have it, really, because I haven't got a whole lot going on. I need a couple more turns to draw with Beast. So I do want to just put on the pressure. So I throw down Flynn Rider, and I immediately shift him as well, because I can, like, depending on how they play out in their next turn, I can start racing ahead potentially in lore, and if they do miss pre-prepared a couple of times, then I might be able to just cheat the game out. This is why I put the arrow on the Rabbit last turn, to note that they quested with it. They play Friends on the other side. This is 100% a top. If they had it in their hand, they would have played it on the Rabbit that quested last turn. 100%. So they top the Friends on the other side, which is annoying. They sing it. And then they draw into another Friends on the other side. So we were doing a really good job of, like, removing their hand. We've got 2 Prince Johns here. Yes, I don't have any hand disruption in my hand, but it's not the end. It's not unfathomable to imagine that I would draw into one soon. So they didn't have a whole lot going on. I think they only had 2 cards in their hand, but they top into a Friends, they find another one, and then they throw down the Madam Fox to return this Rabbit, and they just completely restore their hand, which is just not what we want to see against Amethyst, but it's going to happen. They ink their Maleficent, and they throw down another Madam Mim Fox to return another. They just do all the Amethyst things, which was kind of annoying, but again, get used to it. It's going to happen. They quest up with things. We draw 2. There's our 2 hand disruption cards. Literally could have wiped their entire hand probably if they hadn't popped off so much with all the drawing last turn, but that's the way it be. I do opt to play the Sudden Chill, making them discard 1 card. I draw 2 cards off of Prince John. We draw into Bucky and Grab Your Swords. We ink this Hypnotize because I want to play this Grab Your Sword. Yeah, I wipe their board here. So yeah, we play 1 by paying for it, and then we sing with Beast to just wipe the board. And again, I know if they've got Be Prepared, the game's just kind of over, but I haven't got anything going on. I just need them to not have it. There's an argument that I could have just been more reserved, but if I'd have left their field, they're just going to sit there questing, and if they've got the Be Prepared, they're ready to play it when I do eventually respond to their field anyway. So better to just do it now and hope that they don't have it yet, even though the odds of them having it are pretty high. So we do just decide to just push and really pressure the boards. We quest up with everything. They ink Mini, taking them to 7. And they throw down the Be Prepared. I'm already prepared to surrender. In my head, I'm like, if you throw Be Prepared, I'm just going to give it up because I've got a Bucky in my hand. Like, even though that's the only thing they can do with this turn, they've still got a 4-card hand. I know they've got, pretty sure they've got at least 1 rabbit, and I just think the writing's on the wall at this point. I could have potentially played it. Yeah, I let myself draw the card, draw Smash, game over. So I lost to Ruby Amethyst. I do think, like, they're not always going to get that double friends on the other side. Sometimes they will. So I think that, I still think Ruby Amethyst is very winnable, like more than winnable, to be honest. This deck does have a very good time normally against Ruby Amethyst, but I decided to still include this game because you're not always going to get it. Sometimes they are just going to get all their draw stuff and just draw out of the position that you've put them in. So moving on to another game, we're going second this time. We get rid of Tink, both the Flynn Riders, the Hypnotize. I keep the Smash. We throw away one of the Dreadnoughts. I keep one of the Dreadnoughts because it's always important to have a turn for Floodborn, and I'd rather keep the Dreadnought than the Flynn Rider because the Dreadnought is inkable, and if I draw another 4-drop Floodborn, then makes more sense that I can ink one of them. So we keep this hand, I keep the Smash. I think it's such an important piece. Draw into a few more things. We don't find the Bucky or the Prince John, which is pretty annoying. They ink a Queen and throw down a Queen. We draw into Flynn Rider. We ink the Strength of a Raging Fire. And we immediately just fire the cannons on this. I don't want them playing down. The fact that they inked one of the Floodborn Queens and then threw down another Queen tells me that they absolutely have another Floodborn Queen in their hand. So let's just get rid of that. Stop it questing. Yes, I've got Smash for it, but I can just stop it even coming onto the field this soon by removing the Queen. They do indeed now ink that Floodborn Queen, and they throw another one down. So I'm like, okay, you probably have another one in your hand, is my thought trail. Or they just really want to be aggressive. So they pass over to us. We draw a Hypnotize. We ink up Flynn Rider. We throw down a Flynn Rider. I think I actually forgot to speed up these games. I've made cuts, but I think I've actually forgot to put it to 160%. So sorry about that. We pass over the Ink Mother Gothel. So we find out we're against Amber Ruby. And I'm assuming it is a Mufasa Rip deck, which I definitely wanted to include a match against this deck as we featured it recently. They throw down the Queens. They did have another Floodborn version. Throw it down, immediately quest up. And obviously the ability doesn't mean anything at the moment, and they pass over to us. We ink our Benja, even though I know I'm playing a deck that will want to be running Lanterns. But I value more, I think, all the cards in my hand. Like, I've got 3 discard cards here, and there's potential that I could just get them to a point where I can just remove their entire hand in one go. So maybe it wasn't the right choice, but it was my thought trail at the time. We do choose to smash this Queen straight away. We play a Sudden Chill by singing it. Yeah, because let's just deny them options and give them less options for what they can ink. We pass over, they ink a Rush Queen of Hearts, and they throw down Pongo. So it is the evasive version of Mufasa. I'm assuming. We haven't seen the Mufasa, but I'm guessing that's what this is. We draw Strength of a Raging Fire, and we just immediately play that Hypnotize, take that last card out of their hand, which was either another Queen or the Tremaine, and we ink the Strength of a Raging Fire. Quest up with Flynn Rider, and we're looking pretty good at this point. They draw and immediately ink Stitch. They do opt to challenge in with Pongo, which makes a lot of sense. Stop us from keep questing with Flynn. Make it so that we can't shift easily if they assume that we're running the Floodborn version. And again, Pongo survives the hit, so it makes all the sense for them to do this. They pass over to us. I just immediately play down the Floodborn Flynn Rider because they've got no hand. So, and I'm assuming that they're going to want to play or ink whatever they play next turn. So this is how we're just going to race ahead. We ink Flynn Rider. We hold the Sudden Chill in case they decide to keep a card in their hand, because they more like. This deck is likely running things like maybe Scar, maybe they are running the Be Prepareds in this version, probably Maleficent, so there are odds that they'll draw something that they choose not to ink or just an uninkable. So we hold the Sudden Chill to leave it as an option. They do top the Maleficent and ink her straight away. Questing up with Pongo, we draw Prince John, throw him down so that if we do get a chance to do some discard, then we could just be drawing cards off of that as well. No point putting down the Dreadnought, he can't go into Pongo, so might as well hold it. Pass over to them. They top and throw down a Queen. quest up with Pongo, and pass over to us. We draw another Flynn Rider. Now we put down this Dreadnought. We've got Queen as a great target for next turn. We quest with Flynn, who quests for 4 because of their empty hand. They top a Tremaine and throw her down straight away. Get rid of the Prince John, least valuable piece on our board with this current board state. They quest up with Pongo and pass over to us. We quest with Flynn, once again taking us to 14, just so aggressive. We throw down another one so that we are just threatening game next turn. I do decide to ink the Bucky, get myself up to 6, and pass. And they just pass, because even if they hold both the cards in their hand, sorry, the one card in their hand, both of my Flynn Riders still quest a game. They could challenge him with Pongo, but Pongo doesn't take out Flynn Rider, so just a GG straight away. So yeah, a good showing against what I assume is a Mufasa deck. They didn't seem to have the best start. They missed the Lantern, obviously, and we didn't see a dock. But yeah, we take the dub. We take those. Moving into our next game, we're going second this time. What do we get rid of? We get rid of the Flynns, and I keep everything else. Yeah, because Bucky and Prince John is my perfect curve. I'm happy to potentially play one of these Hypnotize on turn 4 or 5, or just ink them. So I do decide to hold them both. I probably should have thrown one away, to be honest, to look more aggressively for a Floodborn, for a turn 4 Floodborn drop, because I didn't have the Dreadnought in my hand at the time. But we do draw into one, so we're not punished for it. They ink a Flynn Rider. They throw down the Queen and pass over to us. We do ink that Hypnotize straight away. We've got a handful of inkables other than Prince John. We pass over. They ink a Sudden Chill, so we are against Bucky discard, but with Amber, so a slight mirror. They quest with Queen to take them to 1. We ink this Hypnotize. Throw down Bucky and pass up. Why did I throw away Hypnotize? Yeah, I've got the Sudden Chill in my hand. The rest of it, yeah, it's not that it wouldn't be useful, just my hand is pretty strong here. So I've got a really nice curve for turns 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then the Sudden Chill and a replacement Bucky. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. We pass over. They shift their Floodborn Queen, forcing us to discard a card with their Bucky. So we throw away our spare Bucky. They bibbity bobbity boo. So we're playing the variant running this song. So they put the Queen back into their hand and throw down Lucifer, which really, really hurts. Thankfully, we're holding an action, so we're able to just discard one card off of the Lucifer. We don't have to discard another, because obviously Lucifer isn't a Floodborn, so he doesn't pop Bucky. They ink Stitch and throw down the Queen. We draw into Donald Duck. We ink that Donald Duck. He's not going to be our preferred 4-drop. We throw down our Prince John and pass up to them. They throw down another Queen, shifting up. Which is going to make us discard. We get rid of Tinkerbell just because we're the furthest from it. I may be forced to ink the Beast next turn and play the Jafar, depending on what we draw next turn. They quest up with Lucifer. And they bibbity bobbity boo again. Taking their Lucifer back to their hand and playing it again to take away both of our characters, which really, really trolled me. I just conceded here. I could have played this out. This was definitely a Salt concede, and the only reason I've kept this game still in is just to show you the other variant of Emerald with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and Lucifer popping off. Don't get me wrong, I know I said in the explanation part of the video that I think overall that version is less consistent, and it is. But it's still going to work sometimes, and this was just an example of it just completely destroying us. I shouldn't have conceded here. I've got John and Bucky on the field. There's every chance I could have drawn a discard card, make them discard the last card in their hand, draw off of Prince John. I was just full of the Salt. Full transparency, but I've still included it just to show you like just how annoying it is to face against that deck if you weren't aware. So moving into another game, we're going second this time. We throw away Sudden Chill, both the Hypnotizes. We like Bucky, we like Tinkerbell for a turn 3, we like Smash because for reasons I've stated multiple times, and Donald Duck is our only, at the moment, turn 4 Floodborn drop, so we want to keep him. Throw these pieces away. We find a Flynn, a Big Tink, and a Sudden Chill. They ink a Cinderella Knight in Training and throw down Stitch. So it's looking like Steel Amber songs, most likely. We ink the Sudden Chill and pass over. They ink another Cinderella Knight in Training and they throw down their Lantern. So slightly different version of Steel Amber songs. I don't think many are playing Lanterns. They pass over to us. We draw a Bucky. We ink that Donald Duck. Because I've got the Flynn Rider in my hand now and I don't want to ink any of the other things in my hand. I could have inked the other Bucky, To be honest, that probably would have been fine as well, but not the way I went. They ink the Floodborn Queen, they pay for their Lantern, and get to immediately Floodborn shift into their Rockstar Stitch, questing for 3, then questing up for 4 with the new dog. We draw another Tiny Tactician, so we ink 1, and play another one, because I know this big Tink is going to put in a lot of work, plus it's our turn 4 Floodborn drop. That's why I was fine throwing away the Donald Duck, because I had the Floodborn Tinkerbell to play on turn 4. There we go. We pass over to them. They tilt the Lantern, throwing down a Queen, which also lets them draw if they exert it because of Rockstar Stitch. The Queen is an adoring fan. They quest with everything. They play the Storm Rage on to put chip damage on Tinkerbell and draw themselves another card. We draw, we ink our second Bucky, throw down this Tinkerbell, which is going to make them discard a card, and is obviously going to do spread damage around the board. That little glitch there where it didn't disappear. We challenge into the Stitch, who does take us out too, but we want it off the field, and our Puny Pirate allows us to also take out the Stitch. Notice I choose to get rid of the Stitch as opposed to the Queen. I've seen them go through more copies of Floodborn Queen than Rockstar Stitch, so that's one reason. It's just simple maths. The odds are probably greater that they will have a Rockstar Stitch than they will have a Floodborn Queen. Plus, Rockstar Stitch is what's going to allow them to draw more cards, so that's why I make that choice over getting rid of the Queen. We pass over to them. They draw, they tilt the Lantern, they throw down Rapunzel just for a 1 draw, so they must have quite a dire hand. They ink the Giant Tink, quest with the Queen, and pass over to us. We draw a Sudden Chill. We throw down the Flynn Rider. To be honest, no, it's fine. I was about to say that was a mistake because I could have played Hypnotize and then sung Sudden Chill to get rid of their whole hand, but I'm going to get rid of their whole hand here anyway because by playing Flynn, Bucky makes them discard. Then we sing Sudden Chill with Bucky to get rid of the final card. It's fine now to have Bucky exposed. They've got no hand. Odds are every turn that they're immediately drawing and either playing or inking, so I don't mind exposing Bucky here. They throw down the Ballroom Sensation Cinderella, challenging with the Queen to get rid of our Squirrel. They quest up with Rapunzel, so we've got the hand control, but they've got a bit of a board, things they can shift onto, and they are 11 up, and with a Lantern on board, so it's by no means over. They pass over to us, we draw a Giant Tink. We do... What do I do here? I challenge... because I want to get rid of this. I want to slow them down. So we challenge into Rapunzel, do some chip. We smash to get rid of the Rapunzel. We ink the Hypnotize and we just pass. Because, again, I've got this Giant Tink here that as long as I draw a Floodborn, I can play next turn anyway. And this Flynn Rider not only can take out both of the characters on their board, but is gonna quest really aggressively. But I'm still not in a brilliant position. I need to draw some better cards. They throw down Rapunzel to draw some cards themselves, drawing only 1. They draw another Rapunzel, but they ink it straight away. I think nah, there's nothing to it. I was about to say maybe there was a logic for them to have held that to open them up to drawing more cards soon, but my Flynn Rider is evasive and there's no assured guarantee that I'm going to play something that they could set up a Rapunzel with, so I understand why they chose to immediately just ink it, get themselves to 5. They pass over to us. We do ink that Tragic Hero Beast, which doesn't feel great, but I would prefer to get this Tinkerbell down this turn. We do opt to challenge into the Cinderella with Flynn Rider because I survived the hit, and let's take off the pressure of them, the potential for them to play the Floodborn Cinderella, so pass over to them. They tilt the Lantern, throw down an Aerial, and they miss, which does suck for them, but so it's going to happen. They pass over to us. We immediately just quest with Flynn, taking us to 4. We throw down the Flynn Rider, sorry, the Prince John, who can quest big, but mostly because if they hold a card, then we can hopefully discard it soon and draw some more cards off of it. We use Improvise on the Tinkerbell just so that we can draw another card, and I do just pass here. No point questing with Tinkerbell and leaving her vulnerable for no reason. We pass, they throw down a Lantern and pass back to us. We draw another big Tink, which is pretty good for us. We throw it down immediately, put some more chip damage on the board, and then we just quest with everything available. I don't care about Prince John being lost to us now. It's not the end of the world at all. We pass, they just immediately pass back to us, and we have game. I don't know if they knew we had game. They must have known we had game. So yeah, just a nice quick victory against the amber version of Bucky Discard. So yeah, a victory for us. And yeah, there you go, 5 games. It felt like that was quite a short section, partly because obviously I've made cuts, but I'm also trying to make videos a bit shorter. I want to try and hit the 30 to 40 minute mark. Plus, in my experience, playing Bucky Discard, words are hard, games do tend to be short. It doesn't often go long, so I think that's a pretty realistic example of games if you do choose to play Bucky Discard. But yeah, hopefully that was enough games. If you guys feel like you would really like more, then let me know, and I'm happy to like cycle back to this. But if not, we'll probably move on to something different for our next deck profile. But that is it from me for now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, leave a like if you have enjoyed. It really does support the channel. It helps us with the algorithm, and it makes me smile. So do please do so. If you're brand new, subscribe for all things Lorcana, and we'll see you soon.